How's it going?
Good. How about you?
Good. It's always good on Victory Monday.
Our third one of the season.
Yeah.
It was a good win. After back-to-back losses, this was needed. And of course, we saw what happens with a healthy or semi-healthy team. Right, Alt was back, Slater was back, Herbert looked better with that ankle injury. Derwin was back, and then Junior Colson was back. So yeah, it was just a complete effort. Yesterday, second half again. It's just every game. It seems like second half we deteriorate and the other team gains strength. But there were a couple of controversial calls. That Cortland Sutton touchdown shouldn't have been a touchdown. There was another touchdown that they had where the offensive line was just holding. I think it was Khalil Mack. No call. So calls didn't go our way in the second half, but it happens. I think the important thing yesterday was the possession that we had offensively. Just a time of possession. It was incredible. I haven't seen the Chargers have that much possession of the ball in a long time. So that was really good to see. And if we didn't have that, they would have had a chance to come back and actually tie the game. So good work by Greg Roman, and good to see Herbert throwing 34 times. That was finally, we've been saying, let's see that happen. But he threw 34 times. The running backs, Dobbins, Vidal, and Haskins combined ran 31 times. So that goes to show that we can balance. And yes, we had a lot of possession of the ball, but it just goes to show that you can combine the two and have Herbert throw 30 or more, plus have a run game. It can coexist.
Yeah, and some fans are complaining about the victory. Hey, we got the victory, and you want to compare it to that playoff loss to Jacksonville. Well, no, we actually ran the ball this time. We unlike that game in Jacksonville, we ran out the clock. We didn't give them that chance to do that. Yeah, so I don't get people wanting to complain about us winning. We won the game. We dominated that first half.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That comparison doesn't even make sense to me. We were up 27-0, and they came back and beat us 30-27.
Yeah.
I don't know how that is similar to yesterday's game, but
yeah, I heard someone say this is the worst collapse since Jacksonville. What we won the game. How is this a collapse? Yeah. It's just some of our fans can be frustrating, even in the victories. It's like
just take the win and move on to the next week. I don't get it.
Yeah, and it was nice to see Herbert being Herbert again. Josh Palmer had a couple really nice catches in that first half. That was more of what I expected Josh to be this year, but hasn't really worked out that way. But good to see him coming alive in that first half at least.
Yeah.
Lad got hurt a little bit. He got twice. Looked like he had to go out of the game for a little while. Or else he could have had a bigger day. They actually went to Lad on the outside, like we which
there was a deep shot in the end zone.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that to be him. I thought it was Johnson or something. But it's just we're so limited now with receivers that it makes sense to try and go to Lad and try him out. You never know. If he caught it, they may go to him more. I think they should still go to him regardless.
Yeah.
And he could be that threat eventually. It's just he's so small that, it's going to be a bit difficult. But, those injuries, it seemed like it was done on purpose, those hits, especially that second one. Completely uncalled for. And, of course, no punishment from the NFL. But, he still fought back, came back in, and, did what he does. And he had 8 targets, I think, yesterday. Palmer had 3 and Johnson had 4. So it seems like that he's the wide receiver 1 right now. Barring a trade, he's the guy to go to for Herbert. But there were some moments there where Johnson was out and Ladd was out and offense just was stale. Like they didn't produce much outside of the run game. And that was kind of concerning because, like, yeah, even if DJ Chark comes back, we have that target, but I don't know how much we can trust DJ Chark right now. He's been out for the past 6 weeks. He's going to take some time to get back into the rhythm. It begs the question, do they trade for a wide receiver? Because now the O-line's back, right? They're healthy. They look good yesterday against a tough defense. They look pretty good. So against a weaker defense like Arizona, let's see. If they look better against Arizona, then I don't think there's a concern as of right now. Or we were talking about Mark Andrews last week. Just any target, I think, is what we need, whether it's a receiver or a tight end, especially if you're going to have Herbert throw 30 or more times, which I'm very happy to see. You need a guy to go to outside of Ladd, because if, God forbid, Ladd and Johnson are out, who's your go-to? And Palmer, I mean, he did well, like you said yesterday, but is he going to be able to be that wide receiver one? And last year we saw him without Allen and Williams. He wasn't the greatest wide receiver one, but he produced enough. It's just, I don't know if it's going to be enough with the rest of the supporting cast here to be able to do any damage.
Yeah, well, we did see Herbert spreading it around. Disley had a couple catches. Hurst had one. Stone Smart had one.
Fehoko.
Fehoko, yeah, he had some big ones. It seemed like everyone kind of came up big when they needed to.
Mhm.
And Herbert was sharp. He was sharp.
Yeah.
And they needed that, and we've all seen it before, but they needed it so that Denver couldn't just stack the box against the run all the
Right.
time.
I think people forgot how good Herbert was because they're just not letting him throw.
Yeah.
But now that he's throwing, they're like, okay, this guy still got it. Like that pass to Vidal, that was an incredible pass, incredible positioning by Vidal, and great catch from him. But that was a spark that I was talking about last week from Vidal. He can come and turn the game around in the snap of a finger, and he did that. So I want to see more of that. I'm surprised that they were targeting him. He had 2 catches, 2 targets, because in college he wasn't targeted. He was more of a running back. So I'm glad to see him expanding his game. Dobbins also had 2 targets, 2 catches. So now the question becomes, okay, if Vidal can catch, right, does he become the passing back? I don't think so, because I think he can still be an efficient running back. And they can, alter between Dobbins and Vidal throughout the season. But we saw with the O-line back, Dobbins is back in form too. So I'm not concerned about Dobbins at all. I wasn't after week 3. I wasn't after week 4. We just need a healthy O-line. But now the question is, okay, Vidal is here. He's arrived. What happens with Gus Edwards? And I think, that handoff that they did to Hassan Haskins, it was like a 3rd and 1, I think.
Yeah.
That's the kind of role I would see Edwards in now, like a fullback role. It's just that he's out 4 weeks now, 3 more weeks after week 6. So when he returns and Vidal's playing well by then, let's say, what is his role going to be? Because we know that Harbaugh loves Haskins, right, from the Michigan days. So he's going to want to use him probably more in special teams. But is he going to be the fullback? So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and we also saw Haskins blocking on one of Dobbins' runs there, like Gus has before. And yeah, Gus could just slide into that role, the short yardage, fullback kind of role. Do you think Kimani gets more carries next game, just because it was his first game? Maybe they didn't want to give him too many, or is Dobbins just going to keep getting the majority of the carries?
I mean, I said this a couple of weeks ago. I'm concerned about Dobbins' workload. And that was when he was getting 17, 18 carries. 25 carries is insane. That's like David Montgomery. That's insane workload. And usually with those smaller backs, you don't see that kind of workload from them. I want to see Vidal more out there, and not to say that Vidal's a huge running back, but it's just the combination of the two I like. So I want to see Vidal, I'm not saying split the carries, but at least 70-30, because Dobbins, that injury history is still concerning. I don't want to overwork him, especially before the playoffs, because look, reality is we are in good position, and we'll talk about this later, to make the playoffs right now. This was a very, very important win. I can't stress that enough. It was a very important win. So you need Dobbins fully healthy for the playoffs. 25 carries is insane. I mean, so yeah, I think 70-30 split should be in the conversation.
Yeah, and we've seen Kimani already be effective with limited touches. I mean, that his very first touch, he goes for a touchdown off that pass, man. It was that's almost the same kind of pass that Dobbins dropped in the game against Kansas City, you know. So that was good to see that he can make those kind of catches.
Mm-hmm. And wearing number 30 while doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Reminiscent of Eckler out there. Yeah. But let's talk about what happened at the start of the game. Harbaugh going out of the game. That was scary. What were your thoughts on that?
From what I heard, it was a irregular heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
It From what I've heard, is common. Unfortunately, a family member of mine had it a couple weeks ago. What happens is the heart starts beating faster than it should be. Like, it reaches about 115, 116 beats per minute, which is very fast. It's like when you're working out, and that's how fast your heart's beating, but you're just staying still and it's beating like that. What they do is I think they took him to the back and they kind of restabilized his heart. So it comes back to normal and the pace is, back to normal. I think the average is like 60, 70 beats per minute. So if it passes like 105, 110, that's not good. And I thought at first it was like a cold that he had or something, but no, it's not uncommon. That's, I guess, the only quote unquote good thing about this. It's not uncommon and it's fixable. And I think they stabilized him. He's good to go now. But yeah, it's especially in men, ages 30 to 40, there's always a heart condition. And, I know Harbaugh's in his 60s, but it happens. Any age, it happens, this type of condition.
Yeah, and I guess this happened in 2012 while he was with the 49ers.
Yeah,
same thing. So
usually when you get at a younger age like that, it happens multiple times. But if it's not an older age, it happened just once. Because 2012, that was what, 12 years ago. So yeah, it just depends on what age, because sometimes, like, you could be in your 80s, 90s, and that's the first time that you'll feel that. And that's it. You won't feel that again. But if you're younger, like in your 30s, 40s, then yeah, you might feel it a second time. But the good thing is that there's a cure for it. So
yeah, just gotta hope that doesn't happen again.
yeah, it's just crazy that it happened during the game. And I was thinking, okay, maybe Mile High is why, but like it's not his first time there. So I don't know. Maybe something was triggering it earlier, and this just drove it more. I don't know.
Yeah, when he came back, I thought, oh, maybe he just had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, I thought initially that, but then there was another guy walking with him, so I was like, no, he's not gonna go with the entourage. So I thought, okay, maybe this is something more serious. But yeah, that definitely came to mind.
Yeah. Yeah. But what about that Bo Nix versus Justin Herbert match?
Man, this was fun. Especially that second half when Nix started throwing and running, and he was a team. Like, he's basically the Denver Broncos offense. It was fun to watch. I just wish that Herbert had some more throws. I mean, yeah, 34 is a lot, but Second half, we only had 3 points. First half he was airing it out. Second half, they were more running the ball, and I get it. We were up, but when they started coming back, I was like, okay, let's start throwing the ball a little here, and let's get some first downs. Because they're gonna expect runs when they were up. I believe it was 23-13. They were gonna expect runs there to milk the clock. So let's throw the ball a little. It's just, you know, uh, first half Knicks didn't do well, and I think that's where I wanted to see Knicks versus Herbert. It was when Herbert was throwing more and Knicks, but it is what it is. It was a good matchup. I'm very happy to see Knicks thrive, and I'm happy that we got the win. But yeah, he's probably my favorite rookie quarterback. And then Drake May and Jaden Daniels. But like we've seen these rookie quarterbacks really outperform compared to prior years of rookie quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, he's getting into his form now, and we're going to see Spencer Rattler in a couple of weeks. And the good thing about Rattler is this is going to be his third week playing. It took some of these rookie quarterbacks, Nix, Williams, 3-4 weeks to get into form. So Rattler is going to be just around there. So he may not be into form until the following week, which is good for us. But yeah, Drake May did very well first game. So yeah, it's fun watching these rookies go. It's even better when we beat these good rookies because they're just talented. They just have raw talent. These guys.
Yeah, like I said last show, you gotta they have talent, but they're still rookies.
Right.
So Jesse Minter, that first half, they completely shut down Bo Nix.
Yeah.
They made him look like a rookie. Then
Yeah.
he came alive that second half. But yeah, you got to remind these guys because they think they know it all, but you can still you can still trick them into different things. They had a couple turnovers. Yeah, but Knicks played pretty well. I mean, especially that second half. He got running a little bit, and yeah, he's got that fire in him. You can see that, and he'll get better over time. All these rookies will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is without even Michael Penix being in the mix. When Cousins retires or leaves the Falcons and Penix takes over, that's going to be crazy because Penix was insane when he was in college. He's a bit older. I think he's 25. Although Nix is 24, but the other guys are a bit younger than those two. Penix has a big arm. Like London and McLeod and Mooney and those guys, they're going to be feasting off of Penix. So yeah, a lot of these rookies this year are great, quarterback wise. And next year, we're not going to see that type of volume from the rookie draft class as we did this year. So it'll be interesting to see where we land in the draft next year. But looking ahead, I mean, this schedule is pretty favorable for the Chargers. We are currently 3-2. I believe the Broncos are 3-3, Raiders are 2-4, and the Chiefs are 5-0. So we're 2 behind the Chiefs. But right now, let's just focus on winning. I mean, next week we play the Cardinals, and we'll talk about this more on Thursday. We'll get more clarity of Marvin Harrison Jr.'s concussion Thursday as well. He went out early last game. They look pretty bad. Their main guy over there is Trey McBride. So I think if Derwin just slows him down, they don't have much in Arizona. Defensively, they're pretty bad. So that should be a win. I know it's in Arizona, but that should be a win. And then I think they play the Saints, which should be a win again. Then it's Cleveland. Definitely should be a win. I mean, Deshaun Watson is horrible. I would probably say he's one of the worst quarterbacks right now, if not the worst. It hurts watching him. He's just really bad. I'm sorry, but he's just really bad. And then we play the Bengals. That's going to be, I think, the toughest matchup for us. The Bengals out of all of these teams. They struggled yesterday against the Giants, but the Giants defense, I'll tell you, man, Giants defense was surprising yesterday. Like they came out firing. And it's reminding me of the Chargers defense. They were really good out there. So Bengals could be a challenge, but by the trade deadline will have passed by then. Will T. Higgins still be there? We don't know. They're 2-4, I believe, right now, but struggle to beat the Giants. I mean, if we keep winning, we're gonna be in a higher seed than the Bengals. So, and then we play the Titans. That's very winnable. And then we hit the Ravens. So I think these next 5 games, we can win at least 4 of these. And yeah, chances are we go 5-0, right? But chances are like that every year. For like, there were games last year where they were extremely winnable and we lost, right? We remember those games. So I don't want to kind of jump ahead and say, no, we're going to win this for sure. There's no for sure in football, unfortunately. But I like our chances.
Yeah, you have to feel better about it with this coaching staff, with with Harbaugh. And we have the defense this time. When you don't have a defense, every game is crazy like it was before, and can come down to the very end.
Yeah.
But we're currently in the 6th seed, I believe, right now. And like you said, we can go on a run. I mean, 4-1, 5-0, it's possible. And then, then you're feeling good. I know we do have some injuries right now. Asante Samuel Jr. on IR. How did you feel about Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still?
They were pretty impressive. They were pretty impressive. And if they continue this type of play, is there a role for Asante Samuel Jr.? It's unfortunate, but is there a role for him? Because at the end of the day, look, Harbaugh cares a lot about these players. I mean, he does, truly. And I can't say that about many coaches, unfortunately, but Harbaugh does. But he cares the most about winning. And if these guys are out there playing their hearts out like they did yesterday, Cortland Sutton was shut down most of the game. I mean, that touchdown catch, it is what it is. It wasn't a touchdown. I mean, it just wasn't.
They asked Harbaugh about that too. He said, no, it didn't look like a touchdown to me.
Yeah. Outside of that touchdown grab, he didn't do much. The rest of those receivers didn't do much either. I know Troy Franklin, I think, had a touchdown, but yeah, they didn't do much, especially in the first half. They were just locked up first half. So next game, they have a bit of a challenge if Marvin Harrison Jr. plays. Michael Wilson is decent, but nothing crazy. And then Trey McBride is their main guy, like I said. But they have some challenges coming up in terms of receivers. I'm not sure if they'll see Chris Olave. I think he got hurt. I'm not sure. But let's see if they step up and continue playing at a high level like this. There's going to be the question of what role does Asante Samuel Jr. have with this team? Because like we've seen with Gus Edwards, right? No one's safe. If you're not performing at a high level, no one's safe.
Yeah, competitors are welcome, like Harbaugh says. And how do you tell who's going to start? He says the best players.
Yeah.
And Asante Samuel Jr. unfortunately has had problems tackling. He's got ball hawk skills. We saw it in that Jacksonville playoff game. He had, he was great at getting interceptions. But if you can't tackle, which is so vital to this team, and
I mean, that's the whole point of being a cornerback. It's to tackle, it's to deflect passes and just cover your guy. And it's like the O-line, if you're not going to be able to snap the ball, like I was saying a couple of weeks ago about our center, he muffled the snap and then couldn't block the defenders coming at Herbert. Like, that's your job. Why are you there if you're not going to do your job? Similar to Asante Samuel Jr. Look, he still has a bright future. I think he's capable of being a lockdown corner. But there will be matchups where, like, let's say against a Mike Williams, who's a lot taller, it'll be difficult for him to maneuver around. So I think that's also a concern for him because I think he's 5'9", 5'10". So I don't know. I don't know how tall Cam Hart is, but he looked good out there. He looked really good. And when you give these young guys an opportunity, they thrive, because they have to. If you don't, you're not going to be able to make the 53-man roster. So they have to when given the opportunity. That's why I want to see like guys like Brendan Rice get an opportunity, because like right now is the time to show that, with the wide receiver core that we currently have without Chark. Now is the time to kind of give an opportunity to these guys.
Yeah, it would be nice to see, because Joe Ortiz, man, that this rookie draft class is contributing big time so far right now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
So it would be nice to see Rice out there too. Just make it almost every draft pick a hit on
yeah,
that pick. Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the rush defense. What did you think yesterday? I mean, Bud Dupree had almost had a sack. It wasn't a
Yeah.
sack. I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
But
It was like he felt like Knicks was just gonna go down, and like
maybe,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But they were pretty quiet yesterday. I
yeah,
think they were doubling Mac, and they were pretty quiet. So, I hear guys saying, "Let's trade Bosa." I don't know. I don't know. I mean, again, the guy took a pay cut,
yeah.
so I don't know. I'd rather have him healthy for the playoffs.
He's we've seen it. He's a difference maker. He
Yeah,
can get you sacks. He'll
yeah,
get double teamed. In the playoffs, he can be huge.
exactly.
You just need him in the playoffs. We've seen this defense, shut teams down without him. You add him, he's another force.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
yeah.
I wouldn't just get rid of him just because he misses, a few games.
No, because we're gonna need him.
Yeah,
And I don't know. I think you do need to make a trade here for a receiver, whether that's a tight end or a wide receiver, because Hayden Hurst got injured yesterday too.
mhm,
And I mean, Mark Andrews is thriving again in Baltimore. He caught a touchdown again yesterday. I don't know. It's a weird team because they focus on running, but then yesterday Zay Flowers had 132 yards receiving first half and no yards second half. It's a weird team, Baltimore, but it works whatever they're doing. So you need something, and there will be some wide receivers available. Um, I kind of want T. Higgins because he reminds me of Mike Williams, but a more versatile Mike Williams, if that makes sense. You
yeah,
can use them in more slots than Mike. Um, Although he's injured, it seems like he's injured often. Higgins, he could still be a boost for this team. Like he had 7 targets yesterday, 7 catches. So that's the type of receiver we need. Um, and don't get me wrong, Lad can develop into that. But if we're going to be in the playoffs this year, we're going to need someone like that. Amari Cooper, I'm not opposed to either. Although he's up there in age, depends on his contract for Amari Cooper. And then I'm not even sure who else would be on the trade block right now, receiver wise. But those are the guys that I've heard of. I know that Aiden Hutchinson had a bad injury yesterday. I could see Max Crosby being traded to Detroit. There was a video of Crosby actually pushing, I think it was the defensive coach yesterday.
yeah,
I was kind of surprised to see that, but uh, look, he's a competitor, and they're 2-4 right now. They don't look great. I mean, obviously you don't push someone like that, but he's frustrated. So I don't know if he's gonna request a trade, but he might be traded. Um, and Detroit makes the most sense right now for him. So Raiders are out of the question in terms of playoffs for the chart, like for the division, which is good for us. But Devontae Adams, I don't know what's going to happen with him. I don't think he gets traded to the division. So I think he's out of the question for us. Outside of those guys, I don't really know. NFC wise, I have no clue who's going to be up for trade. Possibly Brandon Cooks, but
mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, and if you do trade for a receiver, it's got to be a guy who doesn't mind not getting a lot of targets, because we've seen with this
Yeah,
team,
there's that
you're not
too.
going to get a ton of targets,
Yeah,
and some of these receivers will not be happy with that.
like Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley, Stephon
Although
Diggs.
he had 8 targets yesterday, Calvin Ridley, no catches. And when I was typing that out to someone, I looked at the Will Levis stats. He had 83 passing yards. 8 targets to Ridley, no catches, 83 passing yards. I mean, I was like, dude, we play these guys later in the season. This should be a blowout.
Yeah.
It should be. DeAndre Hopkins could be a trade target. But Hopkins, the problem is he fits nicely with the Chiefs. So he might say, okay, they're undefeated. Let me go there. They give us the best chance to probably get into the Super Bowl. Let's go there. But I would love Hopkins. I know he's up there in age too, but he can still produce. And Will Levis is just not doing much right now in Tennessee. I thought he'd be a better quarterback, but I guess not. So he could be a trade target.
He could be, and let's see what DJ Chark does too. I know he's been out a long time. It's going to take him time, like you said, to get up to speed. But I was excited about him. He's had 1,000-yard season before. I think he had 8 touchdowns that season too. So he's shown he can produce. And he fast guy like we need, deep threat, can play the X receiver.
No, I'm very excited about Chark coming back. I am. It's just yesterday I was a bit nervous without McConkey and Johnson out there.
Yeah,
I was nervous. I was like, if this team makes the playoffs and they don't have one of these guys, it's going to be a long game. But McConkey has shown that he can be that go-to. It's just if he gets injured, then where do you go? And if Chark is back, yeah, there's Chark. But I just feel like with one more guy, it'll be a more stable receiving core. But like you said, it's got to be a receiver where they don't mind not being targeted, 10 times a game. Because McConkey got 8 yesterday, and that was the most he's gotten this season. Obviously, it's the most that Herbert's thrown this season. But yeah, you got to you need to find a happy medium if you're Greg Roman with one of these receivers, if you get a receiver.
Yeah, but hey, we got the win, so it's a lot better feeling than being 2-3 and behind the Broncos.
Yeah, this was a huge win.
Yeah,
it was very important to get this win because it would be a completely different outlook if we had lost 2-3.
Yeah,
going into Arizona. The good thing is that we're on the West Coast still, so not much travel. But we'll talk about this more on Thursday. It's a winnable game against the Cardinals. 4-2 coming back home. It'll be great. It'll be a great feeling. I could really see this team going 7-3 by week 12. I could definitely see that happening. And then we play the Ravens, which is going to be extremely hard. That's a very difficult team to figure out because you box them out and cut Derrick Henry, they go to Zay Flowers. You lock down Zay Flowers, they go to Derrick Henry. You stop Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson takes over. So it's like anywhere you look, they have offensive weapons. The defense looks a little bit better. Yesterday they put the Washington, and they look better. So I don't know. It'll be a difficult game, but at least it's at home.
Yeah, and it's still winnable because
It is.
Because the defense, even if they were better, they still gave up 23 points the other day. That's not like the old Ravens defense.
No, not at all.
No,
not at all. It's just with against the Ravens, I want to see 2 things. Dobbins, first of all, against his former team, he's got to show out, and then Greg Roman needs to let Herbert throw the ball, because this is not a team where you can fall behind against. Like the Ravens are a team where if they're ahead, like against the Cowboys, I know the Cowboys came back a little bit, but when they're ahead, they just put the foot on the gas. And they're like us, kind of, the Ravens. Like first half, they show out. Second half, they shut down offensively. And it'll be interesting to see who, you never know. This might be a first half game. And second half is just a disappearance act. I hope not. I hope we've improved by then, second half wise. But there must be adjustments made in the second half because, putting up 3 points and giving up, 16?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they were able to hold on, and they held on because of the time management.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, and really, I don't think we were gonna allow those. You know, eh, like you said, two of those touchdowns were questionable. So
Yeah.
it really would have been something like 9 points.
Yeah. Right.
uh,
And it
yeah,
sucks because like we've allowed I think 66 points on the season. 16 of those, I mean, not 16, but like 14 of those or around there, 13 were shouldn't have been touchdowns, right? Because the holding call and the Sutton that I don't understand how that was a touchdown. I really don't. The ball was clearly on the ground. He didn't
yeah,
have control of it.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah, it was rolling around. It was
yeah.
yeah, it was
And it was
just
a
like
one-handed catch, which was impressive, but,
mhm,
like, he didn't have full control of it,
yeah,
and both feet were in, but that ball just he had no control, and then it hit the ground clearly, and they still called it a touchdown. I didn't understand that.
yeah. It, it didn't pass the eye test at all.
Yeah.
It seemed like one of those things like, oh, let's just call it a touchdown and we'll review it. And it's like even if you're reviewing it, you can see that it shouldn't be a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're missing a lot of holding calls, though, just in general. Like, Hutchinson is constantly being held, no call. Crosby, same. Bosa and Mack, we've seen, no
yeah,
call. I mean, I get it slows the game down, but at the same time, it's your job to call those types of plays. Like it's part of the game. It's a holding call, you know.
yeah.
I don't get it. Every little other move they call penalty, but these types of plays they don't.
Makes me wonder if there's some kind of league mandate, like, oh, we're gonna call less holding calls this year, like, to protect the quarterbacks or something. Like, weird, because you see it like almost every game with the Chiefs too.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
don't want Mahomes getting hurt, and
yeah. But
those tackles are not good with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not
they're
good,
not.
and they have
They're
to
not.
hold.
And
Yeah,
they have some guys there like Creed Humphrey, who's really good. Joe Thuney, who's
yeah,
really good.
yeah,
But that edge guy, I can't remember his name,
yeah,
all the way on the right side, he's really bad.
yeah,
And he's constantly either offsides, they don't call it, or he's holding and they don't call it. And it's like, what's the point of a defensive end then? What's the point? That you can't do anything. You're being held constantly. Just
yeah,
hold Mac the whole game then without Bosa. You know,
yeah.
I mean, I don't get it. But was Thule out there yesterday? I didn't
He
notice
did.
him much.
I didn't notice him either. Which
There
is
was like there was like one play where I think he stepped up and made a play. Outside of that, I didn't really notice him much. I don't know if Bud Dupree was in there more or not. I don't know. I didn't notice him though.
yeah. I think he was in there and just not being effective for whatever reason that game,
You
which
know,
is strange.
to Staley's credit, I'll give him this. He stacked the box with it was Max, Thule, and then Bosa. I think it was Mac and Thule on one side and then Bosa on the other. That worked.
Yeah,
So I want to see more of that. We haven't seen that much, but obviously Bosa has been out.
yeah,
I want to see more of that. I know Jesse Minter is more focused on, locking down those wide receivers. But if we can lock down those wide receivers and see that type of blitz, man, it's going to be hell for quarterbacks.
it would. And I gotta give a shout out to the interior of our defense because
Oh,
uh, they've been lights out this season.
yeah.
And a lot of analysis were saying before, oh, the middle of the defense is going to be the weakest part of the Chargers team, and they've been a huge
No.
strength to this
The
team.
other middle of the defense of the offense has been the weakest
Yeah,
point, the
yeah,
interior O
yeah,
line.
yeah,
But man, Ford and Tart, they've been
yeah,
monsters.
yeah.
And it's
And
showing.
Tito's been good too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's showing because the run game is just nothing. It's
yeah,
abysmal for oppositions. So we got to keep that up. James Conner next week, it's not going to be easy, but Conner, he hasn't been that great. Like after the first two games, he's kind of been inconsistent, which you don't really see from Conner. So there's something going on there in Arizona. Like Connor's not playing that well. Murray's not playing that well. McBride's really that only guy who's shining. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. with the concussion now. The defense is pretty bad. This is the time you take advantage of that team.
Yeah, maybe they're having problems on the O-line.
Yeah. And you know, the thing with Murray is he's very good. He's too short, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that was a problem with Russell Wilson too in the past. They can see over. Like sometimes when you're in a direct snap, you can't see over that defense. And I can't remember what quarterback it was, but it was a 4th and 1, and he snapped the ball, and a guy literally flew over and took him down because he couldn't see him, right? But if it's a taller quarterback, you see all that happening. So like 6'2", 6'3", and above is like the ideal height for a quarterback because otherwise it's hard to see the field.
And Herbert's a giant. We don't have to worry about that because I remember meeting him looking way
like I think he's 6'4".
I think he's listed at that, but I think he's really 6'5" or 6'6". Like, yeah,
I could see that. I could definitely see that. Yeah. But I think that's why it's important for those quarterbacks like Murray to have that mobility to run because it's difficult for them to see. And maybe that mobility is like the age is kind of catching up to him where he's not being able to run as much. I don't know. I haven't really watched the Cardinals play, but just from what I've seen on Red Zone, they don't look as electric as they did last year, where you would think, or not last year, a couple of years ago, when Murray was having that MVP type of season, where you would think with Marvin Harrison Jr., they'd be really good offensively, and they just haven't been. And just one more point about the defense before we go. They've allowed 66 points, which is the lowest allowed this season. The other two teams who've allowed the lowest, second and third, Vikings and Chiefs. Both those teams are 5-0. So, you know, it really goes to show that we could be 5-0. And we say this every year. Like, yeah, we could be something in O, right? And we're just not. But that's okay because as long as the defense continues to improve, I have nothing to worry about. But everyone talks about that Vikings defense, rightfully so. They're a very good defense. Not many people are talking about the Chargers defense, and they should be. Just because our record's 3-2 doesn't mean anything. We're still allowing the least amount of points on the season. So,
yeah, and we haven't even been fully healthy on that side.
That's right.
Yeah, so you get this team in the playoffs, and you get all those guys back. Defense wins championships, and you got Herbert on that other side, and you get clicking on the offense too, then we're going to be a tough team to beat. Yeah.
I mean, simple as that, man. Defense wins championships, and we've said this in the past. You know, no other way to say it. It wins championships in basketball and football. Yeah. It's just simple as that. And we've seen it with the Broncos, Ravens, Niners. And usually Super Bowl games are pretty low scoring. You know, you're going to need your defense to step up. And I feel like this is that year where this defense can step up in the playoffs. Again, I'm not saying this is a Super Bowl team yet. Because remember, when we came into the season, we were considered a rebuild year. Doesn't seem like a rebuild year here. You know, if it was a rebuild year, we'd be 2-4 like the Raiders. We're not. So I have hope in this team. I think we do make the playoffs. Again, taking it game by game, I know, but just looking ahead, it seems favorable right now. I know we go and play the Buccaneers too, which is going to be very difficult, but there are some matchups here, like these next 5, where if we can win those, we don't need to worry much about those tougher matchups. Yeah, we should be competing in every single one of them and trying to win, but in terms of just making the playoffs, if we win these 5, we're going to be in very good shape.
Yeah, definitely. It's exciting to see because it's been a while since we've been able to say that about this team. Yeah, but subscribe and smash that like button, and be sure to go to Underdog Fantasy, promo code Bolt. They'll match up to $1,000. So play Kimani Vidal. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, before I forget, yesterday I saw his touchdown number. It was 0.5, 8 something multiplier.
Mm.
And I was like, dude, that's crazy. That's like plus 800, basically, that he would get a touchdown. Dude, that's crazy. I want to take it. I just don't know if he's going to get enough play time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going to do it. It's too big of a risk. And when he got that, I was like, dude, I guarantee you no one took that.
Yeah.
And he got it, of course.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know. I scooped him up in my leagues.
Yeah,
For
me too.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. It'll be
Redraft
fun.
was easy, but Dynasty's going to be a lot difficult.
Yeah. It'll be fun. But tune in on Thursday for our Cardinals preview, and bolt up.
Yep. See you guys.
All right, see you.